Welcome to Learning Strategies Part 4, Assessment, based on Sandra McGuire's list of 10 metacognitive strategies from her book, Teach Yourself How to Learn. In this video, we'll be focusing on the assessment phase of the study cycle. So now you've taken your notes while doing the reading, you've added to those notes from the lecture or the discussion in class, and you've been using those notes to study. Now it's time to assess how much of the material you really know. There are basically two forms of assessment, formative and summative. Formative is the monitoring you do along the way, sort of like tasting the soup you've been cooking to see if it needs more salt. Formative assessment gives us the ability to make small changes and corrections along the way. Summative assessment is what's done at the end of your project, like reviewing a meal on Yelp. Your instructors probably use both types, and you should as well. Formative assessment is like smaller quizzes, say at the end of each chapter, while summative assessment might look like the big exams we take at midterms and finals. We know that creating your own mock exams is the best way to prepare for the real thing. For subjects that may have short essays or essay question tests, look to the review questions typically found at the end of the chapter in the textbook. One thing you can try is the 1-minute paper technique, using these questions as prompts to gauge how much you can remember on the topic without referring to your notes or to the text. So now let's look at two of the tools most often used by our students, the Exam Prep Planner and the Exam Wrapper handout. You'll be able to find these tools on our website at emich.edu/hsc. Download the Exam Prep Planner. It's a fantastic way to get into the habit of planning to prepare before you study. One thing to do when prepping is to look at that planner and ask yourself, which parts of this planner am I most familiar with? Any questions or concepts that are completely unfamiliar can always be answered at the Home and Success Center. But for now, let's look at the Exam Wrapper. The Exam Wrapper is a tool that helps you take an honest look at your preparation efforts and evaluate where you can make changes moving forward. The most important takeaway from your previous exam result is how it will inform your study behaviors moving forward. This isn't to make you feel bad or called out, it's just for your own use in making changes and adjustments in how you prepare for the next exam. Because we mentioned using question charts as one way of studying, I thought it'd be helpful to place one here for reference. These are great tools for assisting you in organizing information and to make gaps in your knowledge immediately evident, to prompt further study and inquiry. You can then create even more questions, digging deeper into the hows and the whys of the content. For example, this chart below tells us that communism's biggest problem in Japan was that this political theory was incompatible with Japan's national character. But why is it incompatible? In what ways do communism and Japan's national character not align? To get started with the matrix, think of any concept that has types, kinds, or categories. The political parties of Japan in this figure are perfect examples. On scratch paper or in your notebook, create a grid similar to the one that you see here. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to create a matrix that compares and contrasts somatic symptoms disorders from the abnormal psychology class. So let's put this matrix together. We'll start with the varieties of somatic and dissociative disorders. So what distinguishes each of these from the others? Well, they can have different symptoms. Some have a determined amount of time that those symptoms must be present for diagnosis, and the treatment practices are different. Now that we have our information organized, we can start making up questions that can be answered by our matrix. We're going to step aside for a few moments and talk about a very specific subject, math. A lot of students come to EMU with the mindset that math is hard and they aren't good at math. They aren't math people. In fact, you're probably thinking to yourself right now, I hate math. The true answer is that most of us were taught to memorize multiplication tables and formulas, but never really dug into the whys behind math problems. We weren't taught the right way to learn math, and in fact, we were often encouraged to do the exact wrong things when doing our math homework. In order for you to really know whether you understand the concepts, you must be able to work a problem correctly without referring back to your notes or to the textbook, or to sample already solved problems. Verbal translation is one way to help you dig into the reasoning behind the steps needed in math problems. If you treat your math homework as if it's a quiz, you'll have a much better idea as to how much of the content you really do understand. We hope you got a lot out of this video on assessing your own learning. If you have questions, reach out through our website at emich.edu/hsc or on the EMU Engage app.